earlier this morning we got some pretty exciting news with regards to some question and answers with the community managers of Dune Awakening. We have info on things such as upgrading building pieces, view distance, vehicle fall damage and headlights, future season pass DLCs, new maps much like Hagga Basin, adding more vehicle modules, the expected cost of future content updates, player dueling, more ground-based PvP, the third faction, TTK, and losing vehicles due to a server restart. And yes, a little acknowledgement with regards to flying worms. You can see all the topics here. I'll have timestamps in the play bar below so you can skip to any section you're most interested in. First of all though, there will be a Reddit AMA between these times tomorrow. We'll have the executive officer, creative director, and executive producer answering all of your top questions. If you have any questions of your own, be sure to first read through the existing questions and simply upvote any you agree with. And if you see your question is missing from the extensive list that's already there, then by all means go ahead and add it. But let's get back to the dev responses on these topics. The first one would be with regards to the blueprints you can take of your base with the replicator and then say building that base. This player asked to make it a bit easier, and the community manager did say that would be more of a low end on their priority. The first priority is ultimately looking at upgrading build pieces, as this is high on the request list of players, and it completely makes sense. You've built your original base and they add new building sets. Well, you would very likely want to upgrade some of those pieces with those new building sets, and it's just a little bit tedious having to, say, destroy a piece and then replace it. And it can also cause you a lot of issues when you end up breaking a piece that was structural and thus destroying a lot of pieces that were connected to it. So good to see they're working on that. The next thing is visual distance. I believe even if you have it set to ultra, your maximum view distance will still be limited to just 500 meters, like player bases loading in and particularly player ornithopters. It can result in some pretty surprising engagements, particularly when you thought you would have seen them far ahead of time. Now this has been passed along to the dev team, they acknowledge it, but they can't say whether they'll do anything upon it without some extensive evaluation so it doesn't end up breaking other things. So they're looking into it at least. Now for the Coriolis storm and players wondering, can they shorten the duration of it? Because it gets pretty much in the last hour up to the apex of the storm, pretty impossible to see anything. If you're moving out of the deep desert, that can be kind of important. However, the response was, that's not in the plans. They won't be changing the time frame for it. It's supposed to be an imposing thing sweeping across the entire planet. It's by design that you can barely see a thing. Ideally, pack your things and get out of there sooner than late. You generally have well in advance the forewarning of when that storm comes. Now for vehicle fall damage. This is quite a controversial topic. Many players are for and against it. I will say yes, it's a little bit goofy being able to just drive your vehicle right off a cliff and not take any penalty for it. But at least for me, I'd prefer not having to worry about my vehicle taking a bit of fall damage here and there and have that flexibility. Maybe in a PvP setting where it actually matters, but in terms of immersion, it's not like you're going to see other players all the time throwing themselves off cliffs, and if you just don't want to do it because you don't think it makes sense, then just don't. But the devs' response on this is they got a lot of feedback when it was originally in a state that you did take fall damage and environmental damage by, say, bumping into rocks and things. You can see the explanation here of, yes, in the beta test, it was like that, and the feedback was overwhelmingly negative with regards to the complaining of vehicles breaking just due to some environmental collisions. So they ended up just, yes, straight up disabling fall damage and environmental damage to your vehicles other than from the storm. And that just frees up a ton of flexibility. If your game gets a bug or a crash, you end up driving into a wall, then there's no problem. You're not going to suffer damage as a result. I think the game, yes, has a bit of a jank, and I think having vehicle full damage is just going to make that feel an awful lot worse. I have no problem currently how it is. It's a little bit goofy, but it's personally better than the alternative. So yes, it's unlikely to change right now. Next on the list is vehicle headlights. When you're out there mining, particularly in the dark places, you might take advantage of headlights, and it's pretty neat. But the unfortunate thing is, as soon as you switch seat, like in the buggy, to the mining ray, you cannot make use of those headlights. They turn off every time you switch seat. So yes, the request is, can we have them remain on? Unfortunately, however, it's a bit of a technical limitation. The code is not exactly straightforward, and so it would take quite a bit of effort under the hood to rework that to enable it. So I doubt it's much of a priority, but at least the devs have gone ahead and acknowledged it. Next up is a little bit of info about DLCs and season passes. If you're not aware, Dune Awakening launched with different editions: Standard, Deluxe, and Ultimate. And basically getting Deluxe and Ultimate unlocked a season pass, as it were, unlocking some extra cosmetics. Now apparently they had to do this as a policy from Steam forcing them, but we can look forward to future season pass DLCs to be much more meatier, have a lot more content to them. So that's pretty exciting, especially if you like your cosmetics in the game. And then in terms of new content, new maps, are they going to be adding one similar to Hagga Basin? And it has been confirmed, yes, there will be new future content, much like Hagga Basin. I know many of you are not such a big fan of the deep desert, and so that may come as quite a relief that new content will feature updates and new map areas just like this. And I'm definitely looking forward to that, even though I still have a lot of content in Hagga Basin to complete in terms of contracts, quests, even exploring. I mainly rushed through most of it. Now we have a question with regards to vehicles and potentially adding different modules, like a nose gun to the Ornithopter, having actual functionality for, say, co-pilot seats, like in your Assault Ornithopter. And it's actually being confirmed. There is plans for new modules for vehicles. They don't know the details though, or when yet. Now, as for future content updates, like when we get new maps, when we get new tiers, when we get new things to research, upgrade, the cost of these, very thankfully, will mainly be for free. And generally just the optional things will be DLCs that you can pay for, so they can pay their rent, have their lights going, and buy their pineapple pizza. This is awesome to see. I always dread with these types of games that we may end up with a train of DLCs that we have to purchase in order to play new updates and experience new content. So yes, for me, this is quite a relief to know that they will be mostly for free. Now, it was asked about when we getting new PvE content, what kind of type will it be, and the response was, wait for the AMA. Again, that will be tomorrow or later today for us in EU. And at some point, once the craziness of launch has died down, we should expect to see a roadmap and future plans. Now, as for the whole PvP thing, some of you are hoping for a bit more ground-based PvP. And the devs do acknowledge, yes, they're looking into PvP balancing and they understand that being perma-chased by angry missile thopters is not the most fun experience. So they will hopefully be addressing it pretty soon. Then we have player dueling. And yes, there's totally plans coming for that. This is great. You'll be able to mess around with your friends. Hopefully you can do it pretty much anywhere. You simply sign up for a duel and you enter a PvP state. And so you can have some fun in your base. And even just for testing out certain builds and weapons, it can just be an amazing feature. and also just practicing your PvP. So that's excellent news. Now, as for a bit of a tease with regards to the third faction, Iggy was asked, Atreides or Harkonnen? And he goes, the third faction is where it's at. That's a definitive tease. The third faction is confirmed and will be coming at some point. We don't know when, but at least we know it will be happening. I do recommend trying to get the different cosmetics of the two factions before the next one comes out, and you can experience both factions by, say, quitting one after you've done most of the content with it and then experiencing the content on the other. It's exactly what I'm doing. I don't particularly like the style of Harkonnen, but I chose it first so I can ditch it first. Now, as for server restarts and losing vehicles, as a bit of a joke, I did leave my sand bike out here just to basically damage it. I wanted to see what would happen if you destroy it all the way. I was messing around with grenades, but I actually left it out here during the entirety of the Coriolis storm. And when I came back, the thing was completely totaled and there was no way to repair it again. So this is what can happen with you guys. If the server restarts while you're in your vehicle out in the middle of nowhere, you might end up logging back in and your vehicle's just not there anymore. And that would be, again, most likely because you left it out here in the middle of a storm. Yes, you just got to keep an eye out on when server restarts are happening. They did say they improved the notifications for when these actually happen, and they did say they're working on ways that they can mitigate these losses. They honestly should just implement something that your vehicle enters a safe state when you were, say, using it or just left it to teleport somewhere and you were unaware of a server restart and then, say, couldn't get back on until later on. And because it's a live service game, it's always up and storms and things happen while you're offline. You could be sleeping, and it's not entirely the player's fault if they didn't see that the server was going to restart and then all of a sudden it does and they're left stranded, logging back in with no vehicle. But next up is time to kill, TTK. Somebody's asking for it to be lowered, basically so you can kill somebody quicker. And the response was a high TTK, a high time to kill is intended. You're not supposed to kill people super quick. They may tweak values, but they don't plan for it to be low. And honestly, I agree with that. I don't like games where you die basically in a one shot. That's one of the biggest issues I have with CSGO. But yes, it does allow for your target to get away from you pretty easily, especially with these kind of skills where you can just sprint out of there super fast. You have a ton of mobility with things like Hagga, Wire Claw, Knee Charge, combining it with different suspensor belts. But yeah, I think it's fine where it's at. If your enemy wants to run away, as long as you can defend your loot, that should be fine. But the last thing, which is really amusing, is a clip just here from a guy who was streaming.
Bro, like earlier, one of those things. Everyone's kind of friendly minded that shit, and then like yeah, everyone will like aggro it and then fucking kind of hover for a bit and wait for it to slow down. Well, the fucking worm came and this motherfucker was floating like 100 meters up in the air and fucking ate one of the planes, dude. It was fucking so funny, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Funny you say that.
Yeah, dude.
Funny you say that.
Yeah, his friend was talking about an experience that his other friend had where he died to a flying worm, when that just literally happened to this guy right then and there. Now this is of course a little bit awful, and the dev's response is kind of amusing. Simply don't fly that low to a spy's field. They will of course be working on that. They don't intend for it to happen. It's a pretty rare occurrence. Never happened to me. I have not personally seen any flying worms. But yes, sucks when it happens, and I would recommend contacting support if it does for you, at least if you lose a lot. But that's it for the video again. This is ultimately all the topics I covered. If you missed anything, there should be timestamps on the play bar below. And again, we should be getting a Reddit AMA with the devs later today. 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. CEST. They should be going over all these questions and answering them. The top one right now is adding more quest contracts. So overall, hope this was somewhat insightful. It's really good to see the devs actively engaging with the community and answering their questions. If they keep it up, I can see quite a good future for this game. It has a very solid foundation, and I've been having a ton of fun over these past weeks in it. But once again, a very special thank you to all my channel members for your extra support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.